Hello, or whatever. My name is Josh, and this is awkward. Having a diary. I don't think I've ever used one before. I always thought they were for little girls or something. I guess I can use this to keep track of my daily routines, though I'm not sure I see the point in any of it. Happy birthday, son, my father said, grinning ear to ear. Now I know you've been dealing with a lot lately, you know, with that school stuff, so I wanted to get you a little something for your birthday this year. The words sounded emotionally distant as they left my father's mouth. It was something I'd always been used to. Thanks, I guess. He handed me a wrapped present in the shape of a rectangle. I had just figured that he got me a new Game Boy, or a new binder for school. It took me by surprise to see that it was a navy blue colored booklet instead. That there is a diary, my dad butted in. Listen, I know how rough you've been having it. These last few weeks in school, I just wanted to help you out a bit. Keep a record of things on your bad days. My dad, still smiling, shrugged a little and gave me a pat on the back before leaving for work. My sister, Sabrina, 3 years younger than me, was sitting next to me. She looked like she was stifling laughter or something. It figures. My dad would give me something like this instead of just talking to me about the bullying. I'm gonna go lie down for a bit. Dear diary. Wait, am I really gonna start saying that now? Screw it. Today was another painful, boring day at school, believe it or not. My mom came to pick me up. She gets visitation on the weekends. My sister was already in the car when she picked me up. She goes to a middle school not too far down the road from my high school. Did you have a good day at school? My mom said, as if she had rehearsed it a million times. Yeah, I guess. Todd keeps picking on me, but Dad got me this journal to keep a record of things on bad days. My sister started to chuckle a bit. You know those are for girls, right? She said. I shrugged her off and laid my head against the window as my mom drove us home. Mom's house was much better than my dad's place. It was a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, but much cleaner and more spacious than the 3-bedroom, 2-bath my dad has. Needless to say, I much preferred the weekends to the weekdays. As my mom brought us into the kitchen to make us some dinner, she turned on the TV like she always does. Have a seat. Dinner will be ready in half an hour. My mom getting all the plates and utensils laid out. We normally watch some Nickelodeon show or some soap opera that came on normally around this time, but today was different. As the lights from the TV came to life, I saw what appeared to be a very nervous anchorman. So nervous, in fact, it was as if he had a gun to his head. We are continuing to cover this local phenomena that our sources tell us is a very volatile situation. The anchorman used one of his stacks of papers to wipe the sweat off his brow. Our sources and fellow newscasters are reporting that there are sick people flocking into the streets with pale skin, and my mom came over to change the channel while we were engrossed in the television screen. Don't listen to all of that, Josh. It's just the media being paranoid as always, my mom says, drawing a finger in a loop near her head. She thinks the news anchor is crazy. I, on the other hand, am not so sure. Dear, screw it. I just woke up to the sound of screaming coming from the house next door. I nearly wet myself as I jumped out of bed. My sister, asleep in the bed across from mine, is a much heavier sleeper. Barely even noticed the sound. I can't quite describe what I heard. A blood-curdling scream, that feels as though it echoed throughout our entire neighborhood. I laid back up against my bed frame and just listened. Very quietly. I thought I could hear someone mumbling. I don't think I'm going to be able to fall back asleep tonight. As the sun came up and Mom called us down for breakfast, I was slow, to say the least. I could barely keep my eyes open. "Did you get enough sleep, honey?" my mom said, looking up from the frying pan. "Yeah, I'm fine. I just tossed a little in my sleep, I guess." My mom frowns, noting that I should probably take a nap later, and gets on cooking. My sister and I went outside later on to play some backyard football, or I should say front yard. This house doesn't have a very big backyard, unfortunately. My sister and I took turns pretending to throw the ball, kicking it hard enough to go into the street, kicking it into our other neighbors' yards. You know the drill. And that's when it happened. That's when I got my first glimpse of something unnatural, something I never thought possible. My sister kicked the ball into one of our neighbors' yards from across the street. We thought we were going to get in trouble, as the ball happened to hit our neighbor square in the face as it fell. My sister and I gasped. "Oh geez, are you okay?" "I'm sorry about that." The neighbor turned around and what met us was horrifying. I should note here, our neighbor across the street is of African American ethnicity, but the man who stood before us looked as pale as a ghost. His eyes were almost completely black, except for a few spots of white. My sister ran back inside, sounding scared. I don't blame her. I was too scared to move. My neighbor looked at me, as if he didn't have a soul. Then, looked back down at the ball, then back at me. "Is this yours?" His voice was strange. It sounded too bland, like there was no emotion in it whatsoever. "Would you like it back?" I recoiled a bit, trying to maintain my composure. "Here, just take it from me." At this point, I just backed off and ran inside with my sister. This was all too weird for me. When I got inside, my sister was babbling on to my mom about what happened, but she was too engrossed in her soap opera to listen to any of it. She stormed off upstairs to her bedroom, and I stood by the blinds near the front door, peeking out. I could still see our pale-faced neighbor standing in the same spot, holding our football out like he's handing it to someone. He never spoke, moved, nor changed expression, just stood there all night long. I got what little sleep I could, following everything that happened, but it wasn't easy. I had nightmares, very vivid, of our neighbor. When he asked if I want the ball back, I say yes and reach out to take it. As soon as I touch it, I'm met with a cold emptiness unlike anything I've ever felt before, and the dream ends. My sister and I finished our breakfast, thanking our mom and going to watch TV. It's Nickelodeon, so the shows are always good. In the middle of one particular episode, the channel cuts off to a news station very abruptly. It's the same anchor man from a couple days before. This time, he looks even more nervous than before. My mom notices the sudden change in channel and moves to cut it off, but it doesn't work. Every channel is broadcasting the same news station. Good afternoon, folks. Today we have breaking news coming straight from the Capitol in Washington. The anchor cleared his throat. The president is holding a press conference to deal with this sudden threat we're all facing. My sister and I are locked on the TV screen at this point. My mother is looking confused, like it's the first time she's heard of it. After the Anchorman's update, we're met with the footage being broadcast from the White House. The president stands at a podium in front of reporters, all waiting patiently. My fellow Americans, for the last several weeks, our country has been under siege from... The president was quickly cut off by the sound of his military escort. There's one now! Kill it! Shoot it! What follows next is difficult to describe. Every member of the media, the president and the local bystanders, are ushered away as the military unloads a slew of bullets at an unknown target. What it is they are shooting at wasn't visible at first. The cameraman was running too, so the footage was very shaky. What we all saw out of the corner of the footage appeared to be a massive horde of pale-looking people walking in a beeline towards anyone nearest to them. They looked almost exactly like my neighbor across the street. The footage cut off shortly afterwards. Back to the nervous anchorman, mumbling about technical difficulties and the like. My mom picked up the phone and called our dad, saying she'd drop us off early. My sister and I were reluctant to leave. Dear Diary, I haven't written in this for a bit. Not since our mom dropped us off. The whole car ride over here was absolutely crazy. There were buildings on fire, people backing up in their driveways, roadblocks almost everywhere. The town was in total anarchy in the span of a few days. When we got inside, Dad just told us very matter-of-factly to stay in our rooms. We argued, but it was no use. Just listen to your father, Sabrina. You don't want to know what's out there right now. My sister started crying. She ran off into her room and I just stood there kind of dumbfounded. Never had I heard our father talk to us like that before. Sure, he had his quirks, but he was a decent man. He must just be under a lot of stress. I couldn't get to bed tonight. This is all too much for me. I can still hear my sister sobbing through the wall. There are a lot of noises coming from outside too. Some of them sound like they're right behind the wall to my bedroom. I can't take this. I'd rather be bullied in school than go through whatever hell this is. Dear Diary, I must have nodded off or something. I can't remember seeing the sun come up. Dad, where are you? I say as I leave my room. Normally, he wakes my sister and I for school by now. I check the clock on the kitchen wall. 3 p.m. What? Had I really slept that long? I went into my sister's room to see if she was awake yet. Rise and shine. We're super late for school. We may have missed. I couldn't finish my sentence. What I saw made my jaw drop. My eyes witnessed Dad? It was my sister and my dad. They were standing with their backs to me, looking out my sister's bedroom window. I could tell they were sick. The skin on their arms and the back of their neck were as pale as a white sheet of paper. Son, won't you join us? My dad said, without even turning around. Yes, brother, join us, my sister said, turning her head slightly. What the hell is going on? Are you guys okay? My eyes started to water. They both turned around, grinning ear to ear, and started walking towards me. Hush now. You will join us, whether you like it or not, my dad said, in a far more raspy, grisly tone. I screamed and ran, grabbing my diary on the way out. They didn't run towards me or sprint after me, just walked at a very slow pace, almost like a zombie. I sprinted out of the house and ran down the street, not even knowing where to go. The whole town was covered in smoke now. Hard to breathe or see. I thought I saw more of those pale-faced things as I ran, but I can't be sure. I had to get out of town. I ran into a grocery store. It looked ransacked. Broken glass everywhere. I was suddenly met with the barrel of a gun in my face. Who are you? Are you one of them? I dropped to the floor with my hands over my head. No, please. I'm just trying to find a way out of here. Please don't shoot. I'm gonna. The man started to convulse. Blood-curdling screams erupted from the man as he dropped the gun and fell to the floor. His screams were eerily familiar to the screams I heard from my neighbor a few days ago. His skin started to mutate and change. His eyes started to blacken. His voice was the most terrifying of all. Imagine if you would have heard a man screaming, and that scream distorts and turns into the sound of a monotone yelling. It was the strangest thing I'd ever witnessed. How had this man just turned into one of those things right before my eyes? The man stopped his monotone yelling and stood up in almost a robotic fashion. Turning to me, he said, "You're not getting away, son." Wait, what the hell? That's my dad's voice. How the hell was this possible? Was this some kind of hive mind organism? I ran past him and out the back entrance of the store. I ran and ran. I kept running until I ran out of breath, but I kept running. I ran until my feet felt like they were bleeding. I collapsed a short time later from exhaustion and took a chug from the water bottle I took from my house. Dear Diary, I don't know the time of day anymore. I went to go find a large tree to sit under to rest and found myself nodding off. When I awoke, I was met with military vehicles parked all along the side of the road. Unbeknownst to me, there was an officer standing next to me. The officer was dressed in a hazmat suit of sorts. He took care not to stand too close to me. "Are you hurt?" he said in a crass tone. "I don't think so." "Are you part of a rescue team?" I replied nervously. "No, kid, and no offense, but we can't take any chances. This thing has spread to all corners of the globe." The officer unholstered his rifle. "I'm sorry." Update. This is the journal of a kid. Damn. I'm writing here to make note of what's transpired since we took his belongings. This is Colonel Adrian Kowalski. At approximately 0900, our field agent specialist, Dr. Stephen Jules, encountered what he described to be a hostile entity in the forest near our encampment. He described it as he had no other choice. I will be leaving this journal with the rest of our intel to keep note of things he wrote down and witnessed. This may be of some value to us.